Did you know that the New Testament book of Revelation is a commentary on the Old Testament book of Daniel? Both books prophesy of a coming Great Tribulation. In Daniel, we learn that there will be a time of distress such as never occurred before. In Revelation, we hear that you will have tribulation for 10 days, be faithful unto death. However, I would like to focus on the book of Daniel because the emphasis in this book is on how we should respond to trials and tribulation in our lives today as preparation for the coming Great Tribulation. As a young teenager, Daniel was taken into captivity to Babylon with his 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Because the 4 boys came from high-class families, they were placed in the court of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, to work with Babylonian court officials. We learn that the king commanded that they be given a daily ration from the king's choice food and wine. You would think that this sounds like a special treat to boys who had been dragged into slavery. But we learn that Daniel made up his mind not to defile himself with the king's choice food or wine. Instead, Daniel declared, "Let us be given vegetables to eat and water to drink." This was a Nazirite vow to the God of Israel, which was a voluntary pledge to dedicate oneself to God. Nazirite comes from the Hebrew word nazir, meaning consecrated or separated. Thus, Daniel and his 3 friends were obligated to separate themselves from anything considered unholy by God. As a commitment to this vow, the Nazirites refused to drink alcohol and avoided consuming anything dead, which is why they insisted on water and vegetables. You can imagine that the king and his officials were puzzled and perhaps offended by Daniel's request, but Daniel suggested that a test be conducted for 10 days. During this time, the 4 boys would only eat vegetables and drink only water. At the end of 10 days, their appearance seemed better and they were fatter than all the youths who had been eating the king's choice food. The world entices us with all manner of sinful desires and activities. We may indulge in excess, perhaps with food, or maybe we want a big house or a car for each member of the family. We are often taken in by what we hear on the television or social media instead of testing everything by the Word of God. What we hear becomes the truth instead of going to the Word of God. We may fail to stand for what is right with God and look the other way when actions by others are clearly contrary to the will of God. Next, we learn that Daniel enjoyed success in the reign of the Babylonian kings and became the 3rd most powerful official in the kingdom. But there were Babylonian officials who were jealous of Daniel's authority. Daniel received the death penalty by being thrown into a den of vicious lions when he refused to submit to an ungodly commandment. The next morning, the lion's den was opened, and guess what? Daniel emerged alive and unharmed, saying, "My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not destroyed me, because I was found innocent before God. I have committed no crime." Most of us think only of God's final judgment at the end of time, but God is judging us now every day, every hour, and every minute. Will we allow the world to devour us, which the image of the roaring lion conveys? Daniel refused to submit to worldly ways, and instead he was committed to a life that was in alignment and harmony with God. God found him innocent and spared his life from a devastating annihilation. The Bible gives us powerful lessons, and this particular lesson encourages us to examine our own lives. What are the trials and tribulations in your own life today? If you turn to God and do what is right in His eyes, do you think your life will become more settled and peaceful? Will you be better prepared for the coming final judgment and the Great Tribulation? If you would like to learn more about the Old Testament book of Daniel, Dr. Koplitz and I have both conducted an extensive study of this Old Testament book. I offer an in-depth 12-part video series with a workbook, and Dr. Koplitz also has videos to explain what he has uncovered.